Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today, episode 8 of Ahsoka, the final episode. Sorry, I'm getting the fingers off. Someone's helped me out. The math experts helped me out how many episodes have got to go. No more episodes left. That's the last one. We've got through it. It's done. It's finished. And to wrap us up, we've almost got a full deck. We're one man down, but let's say hello to who's here now. Catherine, hello. How are you going?
Hello. That title.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's not burn it yet. Let's go to the other man. In his Star Wars cave here, I've never seen this before. He's been kicked out into the back garden. Andy Bell, how you going, buddy?
Hello. Welcome to the cave.
So I've got to preface, I know this isn't a visual medium, but Andy's had to set up out in his office, but given the way that his desk's set up, he's had to put his microphone slightly to the side. So he's sort of facing us in the camera sort of side on. So it looks like he's sitting at a piano, like he's Elton John or Billy Joel or something like that. So every time he leans into the mic, he looks like he's trying to bust something out. So he'll leave a little tip jar on the top of the piano, and if you could just throw a few bucks in, that'd be very nice.
I'm a rocket man.
Plenty of rockets this week.
They sit at the bar and put bread in my jar and say, "Man, what are you doing here?"
Now, careful. Don't get too close because we might get copyright struck. You know, who knows? You guys could pull off something that's so close to the original, we'll just get pulled down for that. Nobody wants that. Bad motivator style. So that's it. That's the finale of Ahsoka is done. Episode 8. And as you alluded to, Catherine, well, actually, we should address the elephant in the room who's not here. Matt Mohl, unfortunately, couldn't make it tonight. We hit daylight savings in Australia, so it meant that the clocks went forward. So his young child thinks it's still an hour earlier, and it's definitely not bedtime. So he was unable to join us tonight, but hopefully he'll be back next time when we do the series roundup. But he couldn't make it tonight. So shout out, Matt. And we really could have used you tonight because there's a whole bunch of that extra sort of whirly-dwirly fantasy Star Warsy crap that you like that always just goes over my head. But anyway, so it's running time. Does anybody know what the running time is? Normally that would be Matt's thing. Andy, any idea?
I do. And I think it's around 42 minutes. I actually posted this a while ago. If you just can give me 2 seconds, guys, I'll find out for you. Sorry, I should have been prepared.
Oh, no.
It's around the...
Yeah.
What was the question without notice? It's about 46
I think it said
all up.
48.
Yeah.
I think it said 48 and then like 6 minutes of credit. So
you get about... So it's sort of between sort of 42, 44 minutes of actual Star Warsing once you've cut all...
46 minutes total runtime, including the credits.
Okay, yeah. So, like you said, about 42-ish.
The core episode will run for 42 minutes. There you go.
Yeah, all right. Not too bad for a finale. Not overstaying its welcome. You don't want to sort of open it up and see like 28 minutes or something like that. I think it would have been a little bit upsetting if we caught that. But the title, Catherine, you've got some thoughts on the title this week.
The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. Okay, so we're just in Narnia. We're just leaning into the Narnia of it all.
Yeah. At least it would have been the silver chair. I could have put some music on or something like that. You know, I could have dropped some musical drops, but no. Yeah, so I mean, there's been some literary nods throughout the series already. Obviously, we had the Macbeth stuff with the toil and trouble. I'm just trying to think of some of the other ones that we had in there. Obviously, Shadow Warrior.
Dreams and Madness sounds like it would be a literary reference.
But it was alluded to in an earlier episode, so it was a line from the episode. But yeah, so the Jedi, the wardrobe, and the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
Warlord.
Right. Is Thrawn a warlord? Though?
Well,
is that an accurate description of him? Is he kind of a warmonger?
Well, when he comes back to the known galaxy, that's what they would consider him as one of the Imperial remnants that were warlords, yeah.
I suppose so. But, yeah, an interesting title. I have to say, a long title. Not great for my
It's baked in cheese, but I loved it. I
Baked
love
in
it.
cheese. What a great expression.
It really is.
Baked in cheese.
It really. I mean,
A few things
it's
were baked in
properly
cheese this week, actually.
But to be honest with you, if you think about it metaphorically, it makes sense in that there's this new world that none of us have seen before until this season, and therefore it kind of I'm sure we'll talk about it later on, but it kind of gives us a hint of what's to come in the future. I think we'll see more of this galaxy, and I love the idea of this new galaxy being the Narnia to the Star Wars galaxy we know. I love that.
I only read The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. I never read the other books, so I don't even really know how it all played out in the end there. But I imagine. I mean, I know that the kids went back a bunch of times. You know, I think, or at least some of them did.
Yeah. Some aged out and then went to their cousins, and then there was some prequel books, and then there was the final battle.
Goodness, prequels, battles.
Yep. So, when the Star Wars prequels came along, I was totally fine with the idea of, these things are set before, because I was very used to them from the Narnia books, from the Chronicles of Narnia.
There you go. I'm just trying to think where I've only watched this episode once, and I've quickly skipped through the Sith List guy's reaction, because sometimes that helps me get a recap of the recap as well. I can watch them, I can remember what happens. But it's all basically about to kick off. So when we sort of left them, Ahsoka had turned up, been reunited with Ezra, and Thrawn and Morgan and the rest of the baddies are basically lighting up the Storm Destroyer, getting ready to get the last of the cargo on and get the hell out of Dodge. And
so I think, do they start the episode with Ezra building a lightsaber? Is that how they started it?
It was definitely.
I'm sorry, I'm fresh off watching. I haven't thought about it.
Didn't they anoint Morgan before that?
Yeah, there's a few scenes at the start. They sort of just go in and say that they're nearly finished loading up, and what do you want to do about the other guys and stuff like that, and Thrawn and Morgan, and sort of Thrawn's ready to get out of there. One of the interesting things was that the ring came to the Star Destroyer, and the Star Destroyer didn't just go to the ring.
I think that's a bit of a telling sign of how beat up the Star Destroyer actually is. If he can't, ascend to
get through the atmosphere,
outer atmosphere or beyond the atmosphere to go to the ring, then it's in bad shape, maybe, or not quite atmosphere tight. Oh no, it would be. Well, its engines. I think its engines are really bad. I think I've heard people say about its engines aren't very good. So the ring's gone down, clamped on to get it up.
So it was definitely.
But it also makes for a sick visual as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look cool. It did look cool. But you're right. So they're pretty much at the end. They're waiting to load this ship up with whatever's in there, and then they're pretty much ready to roll. And there's still the sort of lingering threat that Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine are going to come for them. So Thrawn sort of feels like he's just trying to cross the T's and dot the I's, really, before he can get out of town. But you're right, Andy. Then Morgan gets the Night Sisters, and she gets to join the Night Sisters Club, or she gets just gets an upgrade.
Yeah, level up.
Well, I almost feel like she's joining the Mothers Club. The Night Sisters, the mother hierarchy, whatever that is. And interestingly, she's given the Talzin sword, or the Talzin Zord.
Yes,
which is obviously a reference to Mother Talzin.
As soon as she got that sword, I'm like, well, looks like she's going to be fighting some people pretty soon, because they need a thing to use to fight against the lightsaber. Like, there it is. Let's just whip the old sword out so she can get. And it had all the they had all the sort of the green magic. It's quite interesting because they've got like the marks on the eyes seem to be literally where she got the hands on the face.
Yeah.
So it sort of seemed like they were sort of burning the I don't know, the markings into her skin, I suppose, or however they want it. But she seemed pretty happy with it. So I don't know whether that was her ultimate goal. We're kind of jumping all over the place, but let's stick with Morgan for a bit, because she sort of when it all looks like it's all about to kick off, and Thrawn basically goes, all right, well, we're out of here. Let's do this for the Empire. And then he walks off and she kind of goes, oh, how about more for Dathomir, actually?
Yeah, that's why she's doing it. That is why she's doing it. So the mothers reached out to her or reached out to someone in the galaxy about where they are. So they probably told her about Thrawn. She's able to rally the troops and rally all the Imperial remnants about, okay, well, Thrawn's out there. I can get the materials to build the ring if I say X for Thrawn.
Yeah, so I'm basically just using this as a means to bring the Night Sisters back to Dathomir, to bring Dathomir back to its former glory, I assume.
Yeah, make Dathomir great again.
Well, we talked about this last week, didn't we? We talked about the fact that the Night Sisters, that the mothers have seen Thrawn use people. He lied to Sabine, and then had the mercenaries follow her, and then had a squad of troops follow them as well. And like I said at the time, they'd be pretty stupid if they didn't expect him to at some point betray them as well. And so I think that what was really cool here is that clearly the Night Sisters are also leveraging him as well for their own ends as well, which I think is, may well be a story in itself in the future.
Yeah, it's a marriage of convenience, isn't it, really? And I don't think either side really trusts the other one, but they basically all want to get off that rock. So it's just going, right, well, this is what we're going to use. Thrawn is an asset that needs to be taken. So, and he wants whatever's in those boxes, which we don't actually see, but we get a pretty good idea, a better understanding as we go along. But, so we cut back to the ship, and Ezra's there just making himself a lightsaber pretty quickly. I always kind of thought that it took a long time to make a lightsaber, but I guess once you know how to do it, it's kind of like riding a bike, I guess.
Yeah, he made, 2 of them during Rebels?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is his third lightsaber now, right? So he's got the kit there. Use it. Yeah,
it's like she's totally kitted out, that ship, isn't she? She's got all the bits and bobs, and I suppose that's because the Tenet 1000's got all that stuff. So if he's the guy's been making lightsabers for years, he's got the whole back shed full of it. He just goes to Hammer Barn and tops up as he needs to.
I understood that reference.
Yes, thank you. So that was quite nice. And then there was a Kanan name drop, and he also sort of got the hilt to make it look like Kanan's as well. And there was a little thing that I noticed that the Tenet 1000 refers to him as Caleb at one stage as well when he was younger, because that was his real name. So that was a nice little touch there for the train spotters. I'm surprised that I actually caught that one. That's one of the ones that Matt Mohl would be going on about right now if he'd heard that. He would have been going, did you hear them talking about Caleb on the thing when they mentioned Caleb? I have to go, Matt, talking to your microphone, mate. So that was a nice nose. Blue blade, gone for the classic blue as well.
Yep.
You wonder if he had much of a choice. So the kyber crystals, did Tenet 1000 just have a few in the ship? Or was it from somewhere else?
I just assumed that whole ship is just stacked with everything you need at a moment's notice if you want to make a lightsaber.
Because I'm thinking back to the episodes in the Clone Wars where we saw the younglings making their lightsabers, and they had to go and get the kyber crystals from a cave and go through the trials, and then they came back to the ship to build their lightsaber with those crystals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously,
but that's part of that's part of their training. That's part of their journey. Yeah. I get the feeling that maybe Ezra just pulling this together in a rush. It reminded me of the behind in the A-Team when they're locked in a building and they need to bust their way out, and they fashion whatever they possibly can to give them the best advantage in order to get out of the situation they're in. I felt that this wasn't an experience. This wasn't the preferred experience of for a Jedi to build their lightsaber. It was a means to an end. It was like, I need a weapon quite quickly,
Do you think
and
it's
I
a bit
want a
like
particular type of.
Catherine, you sort of alluding it's more like the wand chooses the wizard kind of. You get drawn to the piece of kyber that best suits you, sort of thing. Normally, as opposed to just getting one out of a box because that's all you got.
Yeah, that was what was implied, is that the kyber crystal calls to you. So in terms of having spare parts or all the parts to build a lightsaber on the ship, all the metal bits were on the ships that David Tennant has, but that he wouldn't have the kyber crystals unless they had a spare supply of kyber crystals just in case Jedi needed to.
I think he's probably got a little draw of them, but I think it's probably like a cricket bat, like your favourite cricket bat. Like you feel comfortable with the cricket bat that you use all the time, but if you break the handle, you could probably grab someone's and you could probably still do all right if you're good enough with it. If you're Ricky Ponting or something like that. If you're me, you probably get out. You'll get out for 3 regardless what cricket bat you've got.
And we've seen it before, though. Don't forget, in Attack of the Clones, when in the Geonosis arena. Anakin and Obi-Wan get thrown anyone's lightsaber and start hacking away. I mean, they can use somebody else's tools. Yeah. And I just think this is kind of a means to an end situation, as I said.
And the Skywalker saber,
he needs a weapon
the vaunted
quickly.
Skywalker saber wasn't even Anakin's first saber. He lost that. He got one that gets wrecked in the droid factory. And he's got one that looks exactly the same. And it's just like, well, that's the golden one. It's like, well, I guess it's just the one he had. He probably burnt through them all the time.
So he had to build another one after Geonosis to have one. Yeah, they went through lightsabers quite a bit.
Yeah, that's why I think
it's very hard to track.
Yeah, I think there is a connection, but I think at the main time, like I think the cricket bat analogy might land, but still nice, cool to see lightsabers. He kind of like swinging around that tight ship. I was like, oh, just careful there, mate. You're just in that really little tight little sort of galley there. You don't want to take anybody's head off. But there's a nice moment after that where Sabine sort of goes out onto the ship, on the outside of the ship, and essentially has a nice moment with Sabine. Sorry, I'm gonna do a live tweet. Matthew Mohl is tweeting me right now to see if we've started.
He heard you. He heard you
talking around. I'm just gonna message him and see if he turns up. I don't. Normally I would have stopped, but this is podcasting. There are no rules.
Yeah.
So Sabine.
Yeah, I like that the ship is going quite slowly, kind of protecting the turtle people, who's I know they have a name. As they're going through to sort of protect them
on their little convoy.
Somewhat, convoy. You need the bullhorn.
I always think of Homer. You're like, we're going to roll this trucking convoy. That's what I get thinking of. So, and they have a nice little moment and kind of talk about like, well, I guess you doomed the galaxy, Sabine, but you got Ezra back, so I guess it's okay. You did the right thing. My master sort of looked after me, so I'm gonna let this one slide. So they've kind of cleared the air a little bit, haven't they?
Yeah. Oh, so this is when we cut back and we see the Thrawn decide to dispatch 2 TIE fighters, and I do like, that we see in the background them dropping down from being held up, and then we hear the scream of the TIE fighters. It's so effective, that TIE fighter scream, when you see them close up.
Yeah.
Again, that was what Andor did.
Oh, right. I just reminds me of that thing that I really like.
That shot. That shot. Moving on quickly. That shot of him standing between the 2 TIE fighters that were coming out of the hangar was epic. That was great.
Is it Rick?
And I have a theory.
From who directed this week? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
He hasn't missed a beat, that bloke. He can direct the hell out of Star Wars.
No.
Even, I know I wasn't the hugest fan of Mando Season 3, but, it wasn't through a lack of good directing that of the things that he did in that he did a really good job on those. And, There was there was a few paunchy Thrawn shots this week as well. There was there was a few side-ons where the Enoch, whatever his name was, staying on one side and Thrawn staying on the other, and Enoch's got the sort of the cut stormtrooper profile, and Thrawn was punching out a little bit.
As a gentleman that is somewhat challenged every now and again in the girth area myself, why are they wearing their belt so high? That does not help at all. I think it's the fact that the heart, that does not help the silhouette whatsoever. And it's something that's seems to have happened. And I spent some time on this, obviously, because I'm physically challenged myself in the girth area. And I was thinking to myself, why on earth, if you go back to the OG, they all wear belts where they should sit on the top of the hips. Whereas for some reason, since I don't know, since the new costume makers are making decisions, they seem to be like halfway up the belly, which in itself creates this kind of really weird disproportionate silhouette of the person.
Yeah. I blame high-waisted pants. I don't like them. They look bad on me. Sure, I grew up in the era of low-waisted stuff, but high-waisted pants, no good.
Bring back the baggy trousers and the
I need to send you guys. I need to send you guys a clip of a documentary, or a mockumentary, sorry, that was developed in the UK around Simon Cowell, because there's always been this ongoing meme in the UK of Simon Cowell wearing his trousers high, and they made an entire mockumentary out of this theory that the guy through his childhood just wore his trousers way too high. I'll send it over to you. It's quite funny.
That's what Thrawn's deal is. That's sort of the higher he's gone up the ranks of the Empire, the higher his trousers have got, basically.
Yeah.
So when he's finally killed off at the end, his trousers will just fall down. But it was so artfully done, and he's like, blump. It's like, wow, what a final humiliation for Thrawn. Oh, speaking of final humiliations, look who's decided to join us. Right, Matt. So all you really missed was Sabine and Ahsoka having a little chit chat on the ship, catching up. Really, sort of, Ahsoka seemed to be forgiving a lot of the ills.
She's very enlightened these days. She's letting it go.
Do you think that's because of her little trip in the water? Her little enlightened trip in the water. Now she's ready to forgive.
Post episode 5, she's more carefree.
She's more footloose and carefree. So, yep, everything's all going swimmingly. Everyone was getting well. And then a couple of pesky TIE fighters show up and start raining down on the ship, which isn't very helpful when you're flying sort of 10 feet above a bunch of people floating underneath. And, yeah, it's all hands on deck, really. So Ezra and Ahsoka get down there to try to hold the ship up, which was quite a cool moment. I've never really seen that before.
Yeah, it was cool. I was very worried for the turtle people. I was very worried for turtle people and for wolf dogs this episode. So I was, I get far more worried for side characters and animals than what I do for people or main characters.
You should put in your Twitter, Catherine Kneen, space RSPCA.
Yeah, lover of fictional animals.
Space whale, Greenpeace, everything.
Well, we did so, Catherine, I'm sure you won't mind me telling this story, Catherine. We went and saw The Creator last week and went with a couple of friends, and there was a couple of moments of animal peril in there, and Catherine did not like that. And she sent me a message after going, I hope your mates didn't think it was weird how worried I got about those animals in there. I'm like, no, I think they were fine.
Yeah, I literally had my hands over my eyes and I sunk down in the seat. So
was it good, the movie?
Yeah, it was good.
Yes,
it was really good. Very worth seeing on the big screen.
Better than Rogue One?
Don't say anything. I'm going on Friday. Please don't say anything.
Well, you'll know. Yep. Look for the moments of animal peril, Andy, and see if you can spot them and report back to us next week. So there was a little bit of animal peril here, but Ahsoka and Ezra, used the Force to hold the ship up, which I thought was quite cool. I've never really seen that, which was groovy.
Well, that's because the TIE fighters took out the stabilizer, so it couldn't float.
But then couldn't finish him off.
No, that was a little kamikaze move by Sabine there.
Yeah, that was quite cool. So she sort of got the engine to fly through, and then just sort of I don't know. Like, I guess a bigger ship just flies through a smaller ship. That's okay. No shields
just-
involved.
The wings just clipped their wings, and her wings were stronger. So, boom, train versus car.
Yep.
TIE fighters are pretty flimsy, so
I was about to say that the worst produced fighter of all time.
Basically, just made of tinfoil, aren't they? Really?
They're built on a budget, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, they're not Thrawn's TIE defenders by any
No.
means.
No.
He should have had a bit where they said that the TIE fighters are being knocked down. He just cuts him. He's like, oh, they knew it. Those stupid TIE fighters. If only there was a better way. So they basically decide that they've got to take the fight to them. They can't take the ship to the ring. I mean, it wasn't really established that they were heading to the ring anyway. Like, I guess that's where they were going. But were they just escorting the turtle people before? They didn't really seem like they were particularly rushed. Like, you
No,
would have
they were
thought that
just
if they were
ambling along.
you kind of thought that they would have gotten the ship and like, we've got to get there before they get out of here. Like, there didn't seem to be a real sense of urgency.
one thing. Did I miss the Ezra Kanan Jarrus lightsaber conversation?
Yeah, you missed all of
with
that.
the Tenet 1000.
Yeah.
Oh,
And also, I mentioned how he called Tenet 1000 called him Caleb at one stage as well.
that was good. Funnily enough, funny story. I was looking at an unboxing of a Kanan Jarrus lightsaber, and they were emphasizing the little CD circle thing that goes around it. And then I think it's very clever by Hasbro as well to sort of give Sabine Ezra's lightsaber. Now Ezra's made a new one, and they just
I don't have to make a new mold. They're like, well, we already got the mold.
pump out more toys. We'll put them on the display stands for sure.
Well, everybody got a bloody lightsaber, didn't they, this episode?
But going back to your point, Josh, I mean, yeah, they took their time. I mean, following the TIE fighter strike, Thrawn orders a ground assault. Get ready for a ground assault. It's like, you've been ready for so long. You've already said in a previous episode that as soon as you've already kind of won because you've managed to delay everyone, and time is his ally, not Ahsoka's ally, and you can leave when you need to. But then he orders a ground assault. It's like, why? Just take off and go.
But
Just
I
go.
think he said to prepare for a ground assault.
Immediately.
Because he already knew. So we already knew though that the ship was loaded. It was already stocked up with all the coffins or whatever they are.
So I assume
so
that as
go.
meaning is preparing for Ahsoka and crew will do a ground assault. So prepare for that.
But he knew that they had a ship, didn't? Like, surely he knew. Like, someone would have told him that Ahsoka came on a ship.
Well,
so wouldn't he have been
that's
like, well, they've got
why-
a ship. They could be here any second now. We've got to get ready for them. to
No,
show up in
but
a
he
ship.
was told that the TIE fighters at least engaged and incapacitated it.
Yeah.
So he was saying, okay, now her only way of attack is on the ground, so prepare for a ground assault.
Oh, I know that, but
also
I just meant that before that, like, there was all this thing about, like you said, Andy, it was a race against time. Like, we we're wasting their time because we've got to stall them so we can get out of here, and then they find out that they've got access to a starship, and then for
We
one,
don't know how long-
Ahsoka's meandering along with on the convoy, and Thrawn's just like waiting for her to turn up. Like, maybe they were prepared for her to fly in. Maybe where he said, "No, you got to get ready to come by the ground now because we were ready to come by the air." But
I think that's probably it because we don't know how long it was between episodes. So, yeah, he might have been prepared for an air assault, not a ground one.
But also the last two episodes as well it's also really extended, like, for not unnecessarily, but you sort of got a look into the way Thrawn thinks and strategizes, and it's been very over the top, but it's sort of been, all the Thrawn stands are loving it, but it's a good way of extending 2 episodes.
Andy, you're desperate
for
to
everyone-
say something here. Go on.
Get in there, Andy.
No. The question. I had a question, and I've only just thought about it. Time is of the essence, and they've lost time, which Thrawn talks about in episode 7. They lost time, and yet they spend the first 15 minutes of episode 8 slowly protecting the turtle people.
Yeah, but
As
even
slowly
why?
as they possibly
don't care
can.
about the turtle people. Why don't they just leave them
that's
and
my
let them
point.
go? Yeah.
No. I'm not saying. Of course, they care about the turtle people, but if time is of the essence,
Yeah.
jump in the ship, everyone, quickly as possible. Get over there and deal with Thrawn.
Yeah.
Why
Either get in there to stop him
What
or find a way back.
what was the purpose of covering the turtle people apart from the local raiders, which I would suggest weren't the primary threat? Don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because let's face it, Ezra and Sabine and Ahsoka being there with the turtle people put the turtle people in more danger than just the turtle people being on their own.
But also maybe because if Ahsoka flies the ship in the air, they'll know exactly where it is immediately. Whereas if it's floating on the ground, remember that like they were trying to get intel on where they were. They couldn't find it. If they low in the air, they go straight into the radar. That was my thought. Like they're not sort of they're not giving cover to the turtles. They're sort of just evading being picked up.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I like I said, I think
Very
there must have been a little
slowly.
bit of. I don't know. Maybe I always like not the things to be explained, but like just make it clear to the audience what's going on. So even the fact that they're going, our primary goal is to stop Thrawn, and even if that means that we get stuck here, then we have to do that. I mean, I think that would have been a good conversation to even have with Ezra. Like, hey, I know you want to get home, but if it's between Thrawn getting out and you being stuck here, like, I'm sorry, but we've got to deal with that. But that wasn't really sort of. I know that's not how it played out, but they never really talked about how they were going to get back or anything like that. I mean, we'll speak into that later as we get there. But anyway, the ship's down. Hu Yang's got to fix it with his little mechanic buddies, and Sabine, Ezra, and Ahsoka jump on some doggies and head for the tower. With some cool visuals there, with the sort of the bombardment going on. We quite like that. That was always like seeing something new that we haven't seen in Star Wars. There's a lot of sort of first person, going through the bombardment and stuff, which was quite cool.
And Thrawn just giving it, he's talking a lot. He's explaining things. He's, the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker will not be negotiated.
They're really
with.
just trying to make him seem like this technical genius, but he's sort of like Andy said, he's kind of overplaying things a little bit. Like he's sort of just over egging the omelet a little bit.
Well, it's funny that I sent. Did I send you that meme where like it says Thrawn in the EU and he's playing 4D chess? Thrawn in Legends playing regular chess. Thrawn in Rebels playing checkers, and then Thrawn in this show, and it's like tic-tac-toe, and he's just sort of creating the board, an extra one on the board.
He only needed to like literally lift the ship up another 400 meters, and it wouldn't have even been an issue. Because he could he just kept the ship. He could have just gone, well, we're not quite ready to go, but how about we just get the ship away from the one way of access that they have? We could just lift the ship up slightly, and then when we're ready to get in the atmosphere and get out of here, we'll get out of here. But anyway.
Well, were they still loading?
Because they said they were done,
quote
but then
unquote cargo.
They were done, and they kind of dicked around
done.
it. But then he
he wasn't on the ship. He was still on the.
He was on the ring, wasn't he?
He was on the tower for a lot of it, and then he went into the ring.
I did enjoy an enormous amount of ComScan mentions in this episode.
Which makes you wonder that he I mean, I know they keep going on about what's on that cargo and stuff, but it would have been a lot easier if he just got on the ring and got out of there rather than even bothered with the ship.
He could have just betrayed them and said, we're leaving. Sorry,
that's the
bye.
thing. Like I'm sure he could have, unless he's gone below, desperately need what's in those boxes in order to win. But you kind of feel like he could have got there and rallied the Empire with what they had, as long as he's there.
We need to soft launch the movies, okay, Josh?
I suppose so.
He might be playing the long game, thinking, okay, if they are, more witches, which I think most of us have theorised that they are potential allies in the future. So
I guess he goes, if I screw them over and just try to leave on the ring and leave them there, they could use the magic and fry the ring and just leave me there. Or, who knows what they're capable of? They could be doing anything there. Yeah. It's very true. So then we get Ezra and Ahsoka and Sabine, I look like they're getting in the way here. We need some volunteers. We need some troopers to go down there and stop them. And they cut through those troopers like they're butter, like they're nothing, like they're just regular old stormtroopers.
Stormies.
And then what happens, Andy? Then we get what we thought we had before, but what we have now.
There's zombies.
So shout out to Alex Damon again, who tweeted at me that he was vindicated today.
My question, because I never understood the whole aesthetic around, with the cracked armor, the bindings, and the different colors and stuff. My question is, do we think there were zombies all along and they're just being reanimated, which would be weird because they seem to be quite coherent last week when we kind of poo-pooed that idea.
Yep.
And then this week they're...
I didn't think they were, but then the death troopers that Sabine and Ezra fight, like you see one of the helmets get cracked and their faces are all like they've been dead for ages.
Yeah.
Like they're all... Yeah. So I don't know whether there was a couple of elite
really
ones
cool.
that were already dead.
Yeah, that's my gut feeling, is that some of those like death troopers have been long time zombies, but those other ones, this was their first time getting reanimated because the witches had to do the spell to reanimate them. And then after that first time, they were quicker to get up. And before, in their first assault, they were walking and moving like people. But then once they were animated, they were, moving like zombies. So I think, that was their first time around.
And they also make a point of Ezra going, I've never seen this before. This is all new to me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
They also had to volunteer for this mission as well. So, they said, oh, look, this is what's going to happen, but we'll bring you back.
And asked if they understood what that meant.
I assumed at the time that it was just that you're not going to be on the ship. Like you're basically not
that's
going home.
That's what I thought at first, but later in the episode, it's like, oh yeah, you also meant this.
They seem to go down pretty much as easily as they do before. But I mean, what are the rules? Once you're down again, you're down. Do you have to be reanimated? Can you get back up again? Not quite sure.
They were getting, once they got knocked down, they got back up again.
You're never going to
keep them down. Sorry.
It was there. It was a slam dunk. So, I mean, I guess they kind of had their cake and ate it too. We sort of talked zombie stormtroopers a few weeks ago, and then they've done this. So this feels like that's why those Night Sisters have to be on that ship going back, because they're going to animate whatever's in those boxes, whether it's those more of those Death Trooper like ones, or if they're just Dathomirians. It feels like that. But we were saying before you came on, Matt, that Morgan and the Night Sisters are really looking out for themselves. Thrawn's really looking out for themselves. Who's going to screw who over at what stage? Who knows? Not too sure. But yeah, that was quite cool. But again, it was a lot. I was just going to think, can you think of a live action Star Wars, and obviously aside from like Geonosis Arena, where there's 3 Jedi fighting at the same time?
Well, yeah, if you count former Jedi,
Revenge of the Sith, where we have the Dooku moment where he's.
I don't mean as the opponent though. Like I include not including the opponent. It's not like Qui-Gon, Darth Maul, but I've met like 3 of them on a team, sort of like doing a thing.
Well, when they all go to confront Palpatine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yep.
And Obi-Wan
doesn't last very long, that one.
The opening flashback in the corridor.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so there are a few of them. It just seemed very like a sort of different staging of like green lightsaber, blue lightsaber,
green, white, and blue. That's very, very rare.
Yeah, and then obviously she had a sort of woozy green Night Sister sword going on, but that was quite cool. So they sort of obviously they part ways. They leave Ahsoka and Morgan to get at it, and that was a good fight. It's different to the one in Mandalorian, which was good.
That was cool.
It was
She's really cool, like as a fighter, Morgan. Like, because the actress herself has got links to Bruce Lee, doesn't
She's
she?
the goddaughter of Bruce Lee. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
that's quite cool.
That is quite cool. That's a feather in your cap. You put that on a business card somewhere. So they're all sort of slowly making their way up the mountain. The zombie troopers are chasing them. Ahsoka and Morgan are going at it. Ezra and Sabine are making their way up the top of the tower. And they kind of get to the top, and finally the handbrake's taken off the Star Destroyer, and it starts sort of easing its way out of the thing. And they're not quite sure if they can get up there. And there's quite a nice little moment of Ezra does a little jump. Matt?
Let's just dial it back 30 seconds.
Yes.
To the manifestation of Sabine's force powers that just went from 0 to 100.
Well, that always tends to happen in a time of crisis. Like Rey did that. She summoned the lightsaber when she needed to in the forest and things. And it's Luke.
Luke did that.
Luke did that while he was hanging upside down on the thing. Yeah, it's
Force mode activated. Now let's go for mega jumps in the air. I'm good. I'm ready.
well, she can feel it now. She finally gets it. She's that. She can feel the force flowing through her, and essentially Ezra does a big force jump, and then she sort of gives him a little boosty boost to get him up on the thing. So he's on the Star Destroyer. He makes it, and she's getting ready to do a little jump, and then we cut back to Ahsoka, who's still fighting. Looks like that she's going to be outnumbered, but nah. Sabine's hung around to help her master out.
That's good because Ahsoka said that she would always stand by her side at the beginning of the episode. And then it looked like she's like, bye. But she stayed. That was good.
Yeah. So that was quite a nice little moment. They just managed to dispatch. They do
Did
the
you
old Back to
notice-
the Future 2 trick where they jump off the edge of the thing and the spaceship's down the bottom waiting for them.
That was cool.
Did you find it a bit strange that when the fight was happening right on the
Pillar.
the top floor of the pillar, that the zombie troopers just stopped and started watching. the
Yes,
fight?
and they just stood around.
I thought that was
Find that
odd.
a bit weird.
Yeah, I thought that
It's
was
like it's like
weird.
they've been fighting them all the way up the stairs. Fighty, die, reanimated, die, reanimated. They get to the top when it's just Morgan, and they just stop and have a look. I
Yeah.
find that it was. I mean, listen, I'm being really nitpicky because it was great that Morgan had the opportunity to have the fight that she did, hand to hand with Ahsoka, but it was just a bit weird that they just stopped.
Yeah, they just kind of look like props then, didn't they? But it only takes a line
Yeah.
or Morgan to be like, stand back, like this is my, I'm dealing with it. But anyway, we always sort of, we kind of talked about that someone had to eat it in this episode for the last episode, and it was Morgan, which I was a little surprised. I kind of thought that it would have been another character. Other characters we'll get to in a second, but yeah, that's the end of her. She copped a lightsaber to the tummy. I mean, I know that doesn't necessarily mean death around here, but what do you reckon, Catherine? Is that it?
Well, there was two. It was
It was
Ahsoka's
both.
and the
Towers and
blade.
sword.
Yeah, Towers and sword.
Oh, was it? I'll have to go back and rewatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a double.
Ooh. Well, no coming back from that one.
I'm surprised when Thrawn went to her and said, look, I need more time. She didn't go, well, you just fucking wasted 20 minutes unnecessarily. I built the ship to get you here. God. Oh, now you're sacrificing me.
So, like 2 blades to the stomach, and then the platform and tower got exploded. So that's pretty hard to come back
It's
from.
a bit of Han Solo falling off the rail and the planet blowing up kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, it's pretty final. So essentially, the Star Destroyer gets into the atmosphere. They get back onto that spaceship, and it's a race against time. It's starting to get into hyperspace, and Ahsoka and Sabine in the ship are chasing. They're closing in, and then Thrawn just calls in to basically taunt them over the phone, just to dial in.
I love the gloating, but it was such good, sort of letting the audience know I knew Anakin Skywalker. If you didn't read the books, I knew him, so I know you. And then maybe someone like you belongs in a place like this.
Yeah, also hinting at, I not only knew Anakin Skywalker, I know what he turned into.
And maybe you'll become him too or something. Oh, it was such good provoking. It was great.
I was surprised. Like I'm, I liked that they, I just assumed that everybody would get back. I like that they took a risk and they didn't do that, and it opens up to some other stuff. But when he was basically sort of saying, well, I think you're going to do this because you're Anakin Skywalker's a predator, I thought that was the moment she like, well, I'm going to do something that you didn't predict, and that's how we're going to get back. I don't know what that was, what it would have been, but whatever. But it didn't happen. I thought maybe they were going to fly into the slipstream of the hyperspace or whatever it was, but no, they're
landing claw on the thing or something.
Yeah, just drag behind or something that he wouldn't have seen because he rang up and gloated, and she's like, well, I'm not just my master, I'm my own person, but blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, Thrawn shoots off into space back to the other galaxy, and Sabine and Ahsoka are stuck on Shitsville. They kind of have to meander back with their tail between their legs.
They've swapped timeshares with Ezra.
Yeah, so Ezra managed to get back. He was on the ship, and they've just gone, oh, wow, we got stuck. I guess Ezra got back. That's a win, but we also let Thrawn get back. But they don't seem to be overly even worried about being stuck there, to be honest. They seem to be pretty sort of cool with the whole thing.
Well, once Ahsoka saw... Sorry,
Carry
Andy, you go.
You,
well,
please.
Once Ahsoka saw her owl, which I'm sure she was like, okay, no, I'm in the right place.
Time to move on.
Yeah, I think there's something in that. There's an awful lot of that there are subplots that have happened all the way through this season, which I find probably more interesting actually than the main plot. And one of them is Ahsoka coming to terms with who she is and her relationship with her old master, and which may well dictate what happens in the future, whether there's a season 2 or whether we go straight into movies or there's a spin-off. There's some parallel. A bunch of media development going on in the sideline, but I think she's kind of cool where she is at the moment, and I think she's at peace for the first time in quite a while. So I thought that was very, very clever. Very clever. Sorry, before we go any further, I've got a question for Matt. As the massive Thrawn fan, did you notice the prosthetics on his forehead?
He's got the V.
More this week than any other week. I thought it looked really sick.
I think it was because he was in the ship and it's sort of darker, and he sort of looked even more sinisterly blue. Where in the loading dock, it's a bit more. The lighting's a bit better, and he looks a bit less bluey. But he looked real. He looked darker, and his eyes were redder because it was. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
but I mean,
okay,
we have to talk to this Balon skull on the mountain. Do you guys know what happened? What this means?
Well, he went to
Gondor
and went to the Argonath or whatever it was, wasn't it?
No,
no.
What Filoni has done is in the Clone Wars, the Arc of Mortis.
Yep.
The father, the daughter, and the son.
Yep.
The people on my coins.
Whirly Star
where
Wars
the origins of the Force. So Filoni has set the stage for the origins of the Jedi movie 25,000 years ago. Basically, they're saying the origins of the Force are from Peridia. The Arc of Mortis may have occurred here. That's why Balon has gone, oh, wait a second, I don't need to join this Empire garbage. I can go back to the beginning here. And the mountain had the daughter with no head, right? Which is why Morai appeared out of nowhere, and Ahsoka's like, whoa.
Yeah. So we definitely could see the father's face in the sculpture. The son was...
No, the son was there.
The son was there, but a bit more beat up. You couldn't see the daughter as clearly, but the father was definitely there. The Lord of the Rings or lost those big statues in rocks.
And the spirit of the daughter lives in Ahsoka.
Yep.
So, Filoni is cooking Walter White style at the moment. He's just me and Jimmy Dice are just loving them.
And the way that they've, I mean, for example, the way that they interpreted the world between worlds this season, it's open to interpretation. So you can create whatever headcanon you want. I mean, in my mind, I always struggled with Mortis. I always struggled with the world between worlds. It became a little bit too fantastical for me within the construct or the framework of what for me was in my own biased brain Star Wars. But from this series, I've got, should we say, I've had some enlightenment from this series, and I can interpret it however I want to. And I think for me that the world between worlds, and it's about it's not a place, it's not a physical realm, it's more of a spiritual journey. I think of the
Joshua Tree on mushrooms.
I didn't want to go there, but yeah. For me, it's more about a state of mind and a higher place of being, which strong force users can access, as opposed to somewhere physical. And that may well be the same for Mortis as well. Don't know.
Well, it's left. It seems
but
like
I didn't not love it, if that makes sense.
I want to go back and watch the Clone Wars and see if in the Mortis arc, the background scenery is the same as the mountains, because I remember like the seasons changed a lot on the Clone Wars, and he became a lizard man, and you sort of went all over the place. But it's quite exciting.
My interpretation of that Mortis arc was that it was in the spiritual plane, as it were, like not a physical place. It was more of a spiritual plane that they went to and had all of that happening, because at the start of the arc, they were in a shuttle. At the end of the arc, they were in that same shuttle in the same place. That it was in a spiritual plane that all of that took place. But on that planet that we're on now at Peridium, the statues could just be a representation of the father, the son, and the daughter. But they could have existed on another plane, whereas they're carved into the rocks there because they were worshipped or it was part of the religion, whatever. But they existed
pointing at
in another
glowing
plane.
Mountain. Like the finger, he's standing on the edge of the finger, and then when you look over his shoulder, he's looking into the distance. And there's like something glowing in the distance. There's like a mountain is like glowy.
That wasn't Shin. That wasn't Shin and the Raiders, was it?
No. Like when Balin's on the finger, he looks over the horizon, and
yeah,
there's like a thing
on the
that's
horizon
in the distance.
Wasn't that the destroyed tower, Night Sister Tower? Wasn't he looking out towards the carnage?
Oh no, maybe I have to go back and check. I thought that finger was literally pointing at the thing that he needed to go to, but I could be wrong. But
unless it was one of the beacons of Gondor,
could have been.
It was the Eye of Sauron.
So I mean, they've clearly there was a lot of hanging threads here. We sort of talked about how do you wrap this thing up, and it hasn't really been wrapped up at all. It's all gearing up for a season 2, and it seems like there's no rush to get off this planet as well. So essentially, Sabine and Ahsoka are here for a while because they've left 2 antagonists here as well. Shin, who was a bit hard done by this episode, she kind of got shown up at the very end. She didn't even try to get off the planet, which I thought was a bit... It seemed that he was assuming that she would go off with Thrawn, but maybe she decided to stay for whatever reason. So she's teamed up with the bandits, and she'll basically be the leader of the bandits, I guess, and Balin's doing his thing, and obviously Ray Stevenson's not with us anymore, so I suppose I'll have to recast him. I think the character is too important to. Yeah.
Tormund Giantsbane is the leader for the recast.
How could that even be a thing? Okay.
Do we need? So I'm sure many people would think, shut up, Andy, because you're old and don't know what you're talking about. But do we need a second season? And I put this in our chat earlier on. Bear with me just 2 seconds. The first thing is that Thrawn is back. Thrawn is back. He's the big bad. There is Ezra, Hera, the rest of the team that are readily available to take on the big bad in that Avengers moment that we think is coming, alongside that brings together the skeleton crew, the Rangers, whoever they are, and the Mandalorian, of course. So that's already now set in that we've got Thrawn back in our galaxy, and yet the way that it was left with Sabine and Ahsoka is that, in her own words, they're meant to be there. They're meant to be there. Is this a platform for what we might see outside of it, outside of the events of the known galaxy, and start something new, which everyone's screaming for. Everyone's screaming for something new. And yet, the subject matter and the characters that we've had in Ahsoka, I'm surprised that people are looking for something new with established characters and a scenario that we knew would not introduce anything new. And for me, and therefore for me, is good Star Wars. And so my question is maybe we don't have a second season. Maybe something new happens from this, because we haven't followed up on Balin's story. We haven't followed up on Shin's story. I'm assuming she becomes the leader of the Raiders, or the nomads that are out there, which can create a whole new universe in its own right, which also explains the reason why Ahsoka is not around for the sequel trilogy, which Filoni himself suggested that maybe she's not dead. I don't know.
I feel like this could be. I think this is a place you could end up in, but I don't think it's a place she's going to stay from now until then. Okay. Like, I think Filoni's not making a movie with his favorite characters and leaving Ahsoka on the sidelines. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, I think when that movie's said and done and evil's defeated, and she goes, you know what? I'm going to go back into the birthplace of the Force, and that's where I need to be, and I'm just going to live there and live in peace. But I think this is all in pieces. Someone's trying to disrupt. Balin's trying to disrupt. They need to be there to stop that. And when they stop that, they'll go back to the galaxy and fight the good fight. They'll be out of the picture for Mandalorian Season 3. I think Ezra will be part of Mandalorian Season 3 in some respect. They'll start bringing those pieces into a little bit, and there'll be some influence, but it's all leading up.
And that's the thing. Like, you can actually... Everything can move concurrently. Like, Skeleton Crew, Mando Season 4, everything can continue on the storyline. Ahsoka Season 2 can go on with the journey where they are with their... And then the movie can occur once all those stories have come to their place. Yeah. Now, here's a theory I heard about Thrawn coming back, and there's only really one person strong enough to stop him, and that is
Admiral Akbar.
That is Luke Skywalker. Could we see Luke Skywalker come back to defeat the Empire again?
Oh, in that movie,
in some
absolutely,
I know.
I think when we get to the season as a whole, and we're sort of running low on time here now, but when we'll all come back in a week or two and we'll do a wrap on the whole series. Not just the episode itself and what we think it means and where we go and everything like that. But yeah, look, I think it's all moving towards that. So it's whether these things in the cargo are the antagonists for the galaxy in the immediate future, or in the later future. Like, is it going to start playing a role in Mando Season 3? Does it play a role in Skeleton Crew? Who knows? Season 4, sorry. Season 3 has been erased from my mind. Should have ended
and the sequel trilogy.
No, I love the sequel trilogy. And then finally, before we wrap this up, Ezra managed to nick himself a ship as he does, as is the style. Finds the rebel fleet, turns up, decides for dramatic effect to walk out in a stormtrooper outfit rather than his regular clothes.
No, that's how he escaped and undetected on the ship.
Yeah, I know, but he parks the ship in the hangar at the Rebels. Yeah, he could have just walked down with the helmet off.
Take the armor off?
Yeah, wouldn't you take the armor off? What are you trying to do? Why risk getting shot? But anyway, as is his way, and likes
dramatic effect.
Exactly, dramatic effect, and turns up, and Ezra gets home, which is nice. So there is another Jedi in play in that universe now. And that's kind of where we leave it.
Wait a second. We get to see one more time good old Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'd forgotten about that.
God, you
Well, did we see him for the first time or the
to
last time? Well, he keeps looking over the... I don't know. So they're sort of looking over to the distance. And obviously, Ahsoka sees the bird, sees the owl. And then Sabine's like, oh, I thought I saw something. You know, I didn't see something. In the clouds, there seems to be... I don't know if it's just rain in the clouds, but there's a formation in the clouds that looks like it's sort of lines going down. Was that of any significance?
Isn't that the planet rings?
Is that what it is?
Isn't that the rings around the planet?
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was what she was looking at in the distance, that was of significance. But obviously they sort of walk off and you do the pan around. And for the first time in the season, we see legitimate Anakin Skywalker. Not vision, not recording. The realio dealio. Which opens up a whole can of worms. Talking about, like, that's why they're not in the sequel trilogy. Of all the times and
I
places
thought it was dope. I thought that part was particularly dope because I thought it was. I think the use of Anakin Skywalker could have been really quite cheesy all the way through. It literally product placement or fan service all the way through this. But I thought that sealed the story of the subplot around. Ahsoka accepting who she was, who she is, who her master was, what he became, and I thought that sealed that up nicely, which is the reason why I hope that Ahsoka is in a different place, which I was kind of expecting from halfway through the season, but it never. Sorry, the season, but it didn't quite happen. She's still quite stoic and smug in places. But I'm hoping that kind of now puts all of that aside. And that's probably one of the only subplots or plots that we saw actually sewn up in this season. And I love it. Yeah. I'm here for it.
Because we still don't know who's taking care of Sabine's lost kitty.
Well, that's,
and she's very worried.
Ezra now, obviously. He'll just go back to Lothal and the cat will be there because there'll be some sort of... automatic cat food dispenser. It's probably just sitting there with a big belly that's like, oh, like too much cat food. But I mean, I actually thought that it was nice to see Force Ghost Anakin. I think it actually makes the Return of the Jedi moment better. At least it sort of like makes a little bit more sense now. It's like, okay, he's gone back to that person. He's not. I mean, I know he does anyway. I know there's nitpicking or whatever, but I think you can show up any way you want to show up if you want to be a Force Ghost.
Josh, can I ask, are you excited at the prospect of Palpatine returning via the use of dark magic?
No, because that's stupid.
Somehow?
I mean, maybe they'll try.
No, I honestly think this is possibly how they have resurrected Palpatine now. They're sort of going to...
But
wasn't he
they explain... Yeah, he threw his spirit to Exegol... And that was then put into clones repeatedly. Like they went through that in the movie and in the novelization.
And that furiously
we've just gone past that. We've just gone past it.
They might be like, you know what?
Minute.
That's stupid. We actually resurrected all these catacombs, and while we're at it, we got Palps.
But they've also had plenty of opportunity to explain that story in Mando. We saw cloning happening in Mando, and then the end result of that in Series 3 was not what we thought it was building towards. So you could be right, you could be absolutely right, but we've had so many opportunities in previous
galaxy
seasons that quite frankly they didn't take advantage of. So maybe you might be right, but I doubt it.
And the witches were not fans of Palpatine.
No.
Why would you?
No.
But if Star Wars novels have taught us anything, and I know it's not canon anymore, is that you can build up and destroy the galaxy over and over again and have more adventures. I wouldn't be worrying too much what the state of the galaxy is in 30 years. You can build it up, tear it down, have a war, get over it, bring someone back, kill them off, bring them back, kill them off, change hands, go the dark side, come back. You can do all of that over a period of many, many years, and you can change something
But
5
it's
minutes before you
important.
see something
It's
on
important,
screen.
Josh.
But you can
Canon
change
is
something
important.
5 minutes before it
Continue.
happens on screen to affect the thing that you've seen, just for it to make sense. So I wouldn't be too worrying about what happens
No, I'm with
25 years out from something in the story. All right, guys, we're going to be here all night. But what we'll do is, for everybody who's been enjoying this, is that we'll get the gang back together in a week or two. We might take a week off so Matt's son can get used to daylight savings, although it seems like he's gone pretty well so far. And we'll come back and we'll do a proper roundup review of the season as a whole, and we'll get a little bit of time to think about it, time to watch it once or two. We'll do our series roundup. We'll see if we can get Turbo on as well. We'll see if we can do 5 people on a podcast. See if Zencaster can handle it. We've already crashed it once tonight when Matt came in. I kept going, we started early tonight because we thought Matt wasn't going to be on. I thought, oh, great, I'll get it in. I'll be able to, won't have to do much editing. I'll be done. I'm like, nah, now I've got to edit this bugger. But that's okay.
Hey, at least you got to do your intro.
Well, I did get to do my intro, yeah. I haven't checked the stats. We didn't have too much of a drop-off on listeners who turned it off within the first
Did you get
30
any
seconds.
negative reviews or
I don't check the reviews. But
any uplift?
it's about the same, I think. Pretty much the same. But we definitely had a steady up link of downloads every week, which has been nice. Who knew when you produce episode every week and release it at the same time, people come back. Guys, thank you so much for doing this. I won't do a proper roundup goodbye because we'll be back in a week or two anyway, but it's been a pleasure having you all on, fronting up every week, and we'll get back together again soon and do it all again. But any closing thoughts? I'll go around the room here. Matt?
Long live the Empire.
What about death of me? What about death of me? Catherine?
For Mandalore!
Justice for Loth Kitty.
Oh,
God. Eddie, send us home, mate.
Good Star Wars.
Good Star Wars.
Good
Cool.
Star Wars.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening, downloading, reviewing, all that business. 5 stars. Thank you very much. We'll see you all in a week or two. Bye for now.
Bye.
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 Bye.